I'm Jez Benton, and this is Route to the Top. I'll be meeting with a whole range of leaders who'll climb a mountain together and do a video podcast from the summit.
This episode, we're going to do the presidential run with Sergio Ezama from Netflix.
It's crazy.
The weather is so miserable that we've had to retreat to a hut on the side of a mountain called the Madison Hut to do this. It's impossible to film outside. So this route to the top is we've been to the top and now we're down the other side in a hut. And I'm joined by Sergio Ezama, who I met, I'm trying to think how many years ago it was when you were at PepsiCo. Probably 8 years ago, something like that.
2012, 2013?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I was running a senior leadership development program for them. Anyway, so that's how we met. And then I called him a few months back and said, "Do you want to do this?" And I remember on the call he said, "I'm only doing this if we can do something big and hard." So we ended up on this route called the Presidentials, which is 20 miles, 20.4 miles, 2 days, and we're about a third of the way through the first day. So we better get on with this interview, otherwise it's going to be dark by the time we finish tonight.
Very dark.
So I was looking at your LinkedIn profile and noticed that you're a lawyer.
Guilty as charged.
What?
Indeed.
So you went from being a lawyer to HR. Tell me what happened.
Yeah. So first of all, I don't know how I picked law. My two older brothers both were studying economics.
Right.
So I think it was some sort of rebellion. Like, I don't want to follow that path. Law seems cool. So I went to law school. Did start working as a labor lawyer for a couple of years in a firm, and eventually one of our clients, they hired me to take care of labor relations.
Okay.
So that was easy from labor law in a firm to labor relations, reporting into an HR department.
Right.
And then slowly but surely moving from the legal element to more the HR generalist type of profession, and then 30 some years ago, here we are.
So you were with PepsiCo for the best part of 20 years.
20 years.
So talk to me about the kind of career progression for you through there, and then we'll get to the Netflix.
So PepsiCo was it was like going to school. Like they really took the time and the resources to develop me. I think in a really good way. So back in the days, still today, when we grow leaders at PepsiCo, I still say we, by the way. Now I should say they. They look at a number of things. It's basically how you accumulate a number of what we call critical experiences.
Yeah.
So that would be a combination of in HR generalist roles, HR functional roles, a combination of operating in developed markets, developing and emerging markets, combination of doing a standalone market, cluster of markets, regional headquarters or global headquarters, all of that. And I had the the luxury of doing all of that in those 20 years. I started in a very small place in Burgos. Probably no one knows where Burgos is.
No.
Beautiful small city between Bilbao and Madrid, and actually a special city to me because that is where I met my wife.
Okay.
Always an important place to remember. So,
was she at PepsiCo or was she just in the same city?
She was at PepsiCo.
Okay.
I'll come to that part of the story. So I joined PepsiCo as head of HR for the snacks plant that we had there.
Okay.
Reasonably big plant, around 800 people. I did that without knowing much of the scale of PepsiCo. I was joining what we call Matutano. Matutano is the local brand,
right?
Like Walkers in the UK.
Yeah.
So right after the small, like a couple of years, they took me to Barcelona. So somehow they thought I was good at human resources. they took a bet on me to give me the role of human resources lead for Spain and Portugal.
Okay.
Which back in the day it was a meaningful job at PepsiCo. I was the second largest business in Europe, only after the UK. So more than $1 billion business, around 4,000 people, like 3 or 4 plants. It was, back when I was 29, I think, it was a big deal. So I was happy with that. Then after a couple of years, again they came to me. You seem to be like a good guy here in Spain and Portugal. Why don't you take on South Europe? And that was a very interesting period of time because it was when PepsiCo was expanding into the Balkans. So we bought a bunch of businesses in Romania, in Bulgaria, in Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia. That was my first experience going through M&As, due diligence, integration, and all that piece of work in a very different cultural environment than Spain and Portugal, which is more where I knew, being born in Spain and living there almost all my life. So did that only for a year. And back then I remember David Henderson, the CHRO for PepsiCo Europe, who came to me again and very similar lines, like, you seem to be a good guy in South Europe, but the real deal is in Geneva. You need to come to the regional headquarters to do a regional job, let's say. So that was one of the defining moments in my career. I just got married, so my wife was she was not working in PepsiCo yet. I didn't get to that part of the story, which I will, I promise.
Did you hire her?
I did hire her.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. That exactly. That deserves time. So she stayed in Barcelona working for Novartis. I moved to Geneva to work for Pepsi. We were apart for the first year of the marriage. We were apart before she could join. But it was the first time that I was working using, out of Spain, and pretty much using English as the one language to use all day, in a very Anglo-Saxon environment. So that was interesting for a while. Again, year and a half, and then Ramon La Huerta, who today is the CEO of PepsiCo, was back then running Eastern Europe, and we knew each other from the days he was running Spain and I was the head of HR. Okay. So he told me, listen, why don't you come and join the East European team? I said, you don't need to move to Moscow, you just can commute like I do. And for a couple of years, that's what we did. We would jump into a flight on a Monday morning until Thursday night, go to Moscow and run Eastern Europe.
Wow.
In a very exciting moment in time where Russia became the second largest business for PepsiCo.
That's right, I remember those
we
days.
bought in a row. Lebediansky was the biggest juice business in Russia. We bought it. We bought the bottler back, PepsiCo bottling group, and then we bought the biggest dairy business in Russia.
And wasn't it?
Wimbledon.
Yeah, that was Wimbledon. Yeah. I remember working with the top team with a colleague of mine on an offsite, and wasn't that the first dairy business PepsiCo had owned globally?
Yeah, we had some smaller things, smaller JVs, something in Asia, something in Latin America, but this was the first fully company-owned, scaled business. And back in the day, Russia became almost like a 4 billion business. 60,000 employees, really massive business. A lot of fun. I was really a fun assignment, and I was really enjoying it until now Cynthia Trudel, who was the CHRO of Pepsi, came, and again, you're fun, you're good in Europe, but again, the real deal is in the US. So why don't you come? And they offered me this talent management job. Which is when you and I met. Let's say, why not? Like, let's do it. So went to the US with Elena, with Iker, who's my oldest son, born in Switzerland, and then Blanca. Elena was pregnant, so Blanca was born when we were already in the US.
Born a US citizen.
Yeah, exactly. And then the US job was. I always say that in all my jobs, the line of enjoyment and development is only one line. That first experience in the US was like this.
Was that the enjoyment line?
No, the development line was in the right direction clearly. The enjoyment line was not.
Okay.
So back then is Indra Nui, CEO of PepsiCo, decided to split HR into roles.
Okay.
So we had Cynthia Trudel running the mainstream HR operations, I guess, and then someone by the name of Ruth Fattori. She was running parts of talent, the top 200, succession. So they carved out the more executive part of the role.
Yeah.
And in my role, I was reporting into the two of them.
I was going to say you were stuck in the middle,
which was not a very pleasant experience for a period of time. So it was good because certainly global headquarters have a different rhythm. Yeah. And you exercise a different set of muscles. Yeah. But as I normally would say, the sooner I could leave, I just took on the opportunity and got back to Europe as CHR of the European business. And that was, I thought back then, it was like, I've done it. That's it. I'm gonna stay here until I retire. This is my job. So the job organically started to grow a little bit. So we added Sub-Saharan Africa to the portfolio. That was a geography I didn't know at all. So that was so fun. And then 2 years later, we added Latin America. So I was running everything from, I guess, Russia all the way to Brazil, Chile, and all that. That was a fun job because I had never worked directly with Latin America. And the cultural affinity that you have, the type of things that you value is very close to how people feel in those countries. And I thought it was a very rewarding experience. But my agenda was bollocks. I was pretty much in a plane all day. Yeah, traveling all day. Yeah, exactly. And a bit with a sense of I'm not doing anything of impact. I become some sort of politician. You walk out of a plane, you hug and kiss babies, and then you go somewhere else.
Talk to people.
Exactly.
Back on a plane, go somewhere else.
And then Indra decided to step down, and Ramon took over. And in that transition, I took on the chief talent officer role.
So of all of those jobs, what was the best one?
What was the best one?
And why? What was the most fun, and why?
I think the Eastern European job. I think it was the first one. It was hard at first. It was the first time that I realized that leadership is not something constant. What works in one environment doesn't work in a. I remember my Russian team. So I for the first 6 months I was trying to be a very democratic, empowering leader, like all the things that you have learned over the years about how to be great leader. And I knew something was not adding up. Like these guys were looking at me like something and then it took a couple of dinners, and I remember this one where we ended up like you normally would do in Russia with a bottle of vodka, and after a couple of shots they were like you need to tell us what to do. And it was this thing of we need to know that you know where we are heading to respect you, and that only when we know that you can do that, then we are happy if you empower us. But you need to go through that phase. Which it was a good learning. But then the combination of scale, all the integration work, a very different cultural, macroeconomic, political environment that made the job very, very compelling, and it was far enough from the global headquarters. So you enjoy the autonomy to do the things the way you like them. The chief talent officer job is a close second, because truly when there is a new CEO, you have this window of time where you really can make things the way you like them.
Right.
And I think I'm very proud of the work that we did with Ramon and Ronald Selekens, the CHR of PepsiCo, on the cultural side of things, on how we looked at succession, how we look at the overall talent agenda. I think in a very progressive way. I think that is something that is going to last many years. So yeah, I feel good about that. Yeah.
Excellent. So let's talk about Netflix quickly.
Yeah.
I do want to drill in on the leadership thing, but let's talk about Netflix first, because my questions about leadership is, you have dual relationship with leadership, i.e. you've got to develop it within the organizations, particularly when you're chief talent officer.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming the same is true at Netflix. So you have to develop that within people, and you are also leading a very large organization yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you have your relationship as a leader with leadership, and then your relationship as we've got to develop leadership within the organization.
Yes.
So I do want to get into that, but let's talk Netflix. And you are 9 months in,
Coming
9.5 months.
9.5. Yeah. Survived.
How's it going?
It's a lot of fun. It's first of all, it's a new industry. So it's a lot of, intellectually speaking, it's a lot of fun to get to learn, the dynamics of a new industry. And the company is a bit a mix of a media company, an entertainment company, and a tech company. So it's very unique in that sense, like this blend of Silicon Valley and Hollywood.
Yes.
And a company that is becoming very, very global also.
Yeah, 11,000 people.
11,000 people, but we do have operations in Latin America, in EMEA, in APAC. Many of our most popular shows, they don't come from the US. Squid Game Korea, Money Heist Spain, The Queen.
So you've got to have
UK,
relationships in all of those countries to bring in that.
Exactly. So it has a lot of very, very interesting aspects from a human resource perspective. So it's been it's been hard because after 20 years in one place, where everything comes natural to you, here it takes a lot of hard work, because it's what you say. You need to lead a large team. You need to develop relationships with a bunch of leaders. Yeah. But also you need to catch up. Yeah. Because you don't have any history, any nothing.
So I think you might be answering my next question. So my next question is going to be, or is, what was one thing that was a very clear transfer of learning from PepsiCo to Netflix? Like, it served you well in what you did, and then what's one thing that you've learned in the last 9 months, or had to learn when you got there?
Yeah. So so PepsiCo is a very large organization with a very large footprint. So you already know what it is to operate in many parts of the world, with many different business models, and in a not complicated but a large matrixed organization. So you have the intersection between the global functions, the regions, the market. So you understand that complexity, right? Which is where companies like Netflix are moving. Yeah. So understanding where the destination is, that is helpful. The big difference is that companies like Pepsi or most CPGs are designed to design around processes to, I would argue, minimize human error. Right. So if you look at the traditional people practices, like everything from performance management to succession is I wouldn't say over-engineered, but almost. So it's so
there's a process for everything.
Exactly. So you get to an answer that might not be the best answer, but it's not a terrible answer either. Okay. Yeah. And that is very countercultural to the culture of Netflix. Okay. Right, where we are very proud of this idea of no rules rule.
Creativity, right? The entrepreneurial.
Yeah, so it's a very first principles type of company, and that's a bit the intellectual challenge, which is how I can get to the same output than these big corporations, but without mimicking all this bureaucracy that has been built over the years.
Yeah, because you probably get rejected by Netflix if you brought that
for
in,
sure.
Right? It'd be like
exactly
culturally not fit.
And the good news is that some of the things that in big corporations you fight for, which is like, for example, management accountability, you always fight for that. Like, it's really ingrained in the DNA of Netflix. Right. right? And I believe there's this beautiful triangle of management, accountability, data, and principles that if you get right, might get you to avoid processes. Might. And I say might because I don't think anyone has done it. If you look back to Google or Facebook or Amazon, these companies who started small with a bit of a unique culture, and then as they are scaling up, how they are moving their, I would say, the culture, the people practices. Well, what I don't know is whether if that is the price to pay. You become so big that you can't avoid process and bureaucracy and
it's funny. This conversation reminds me of I worked with Celgene many years ago, which is a biotech company. At the time, it was very fast growing. It's now owned by Bristol Myers Squibb, and they were exactly the same. The CEO would repel any notion of process, structure, bureaucracy, because he thought it would lead to the end of the organisation, be the death of the
death of it. Yeah.
Interesting. So let's go back to the leadership question. How many folks do you lead right now?
About 700.
About 700?
720, 730, yeah.
So what's the trick?
What is the trick? The trick is to be very hard worker. I believe in leadership roles. I always let me go back to one story. Like, have this vivid view of someone very senior in PepsiCo who I met, got into his office, and there was no papers, no laptop in the office. Like, there was nothing. And was cut me my I asked the guy, like, why is this? And he would say, listen, my job is to just give advice people who come through the door.
Okay.
I said, okay. I thought that was cool. I said, listen, I want to have your job one day. It seems very, very relaxing. I think over the time I've learned, at least for me, that when you are leading a large organization, it's a lot of load on your shoulders, and you need to be on top of what's going on, and that means that you understand what people do, where their priorities, how they feel about the organization, how they think about what's next, and that takes time. Now, so hard work is probably number one. Second is understanding that you don't have all the answers, and that's actually a place where the Netflix culture helps. In PepsiCo, I felt there was a bit more.
Like you had to know.
Yeah, there was more pressure to people come to you, you guide us, you let us know what to do.
Yeah.
Which in Netflix we would say our role as leaders is to provide context.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So then people can make the best decisions because they most of the time they know more than you on a particular topic.
Okay. Yeah.
So that is a very helpful thing. But I think it takes years and a bit of self-confidence to realize that I don't have all the answers, right? And be okay with it.
Yeah.
So that is another one. The third one is try to go beyond the obvious. And when you lead a large organization, it's easy to stay on the surface, on the boxes and the numbers, and not be in touch with the people that you have in the.
Well, and especially now, because we're just coming out of COVID. One of the biggest struggles I see leaders having is not actually being able to have a personal relationship with people. They've never, especially managers, have never really had to know much about people's personal lives.
But it's fine.
And now it's like...
Yeah, but I think COVID helped a little bit, because I think during COVID, I think all of us had very low moments.
Yeah.
And I think somehow there was a moment in time through the pandemic when we were in the thick of it that it was okay to share these things, and I think we were encouraging leaders to show empathy and
it was a huge empathy,
show vulnerability and I think some of that has stayed, which I think is good. But I do agree you need to make an effort to get to know really the people, everyone. It's not stay with my direct report team and really go deep and try to understand where people are, again, emotionally, professionally, etc. And that takes a lot of time. And planning is a lot of people, but I think that is important, and it's a sign of respect. I always, coming from Pepsi, which is a very frontline-centric organization, where we want to let them know that we really, really value what they do by being present, walking the streets with them.
Yeah.
Same, I carry that sentiment into Netflix. There is something about being visible. There is something about going to the countries, visiting the offices, listening to them. That is a sign of respect. I think.
Very cool. Right, we're going to pause here because we've got another day and a half.
Perfect.
So we've got plenty of time to film some more.
If weather allows. Yeah.
So that's not going to happen. We'll film tonight, the next hut, and then we'll film tomorrow when we get into the car or something.
Perfect.
But don't forget that question that I started with. Why should anyone be led by you?
I've been thinking about it.
Thinking about it. All right. Let's take a break.
What a difference a night makes. Yesterday was miserable. We were in the rain, we were in the clouds. We had to record from the hut. We were soaking wet. But today is what it's all about. This is a real route to the top.
It's beautiful.
Cloud inversion behind us. Mount Washington to our left, can't quite see it from here. And we've got 2 more mountains to go. So we're at the top of Eisenhower, who I believe was the 34th president.
I think so.
Something like that. That
Yes.
was a test of our history. So where I wanted to start was factions of HR, or parts of HR. And so my question is what do you like the most?
So I think there are 2 areas which I think are somehow forgotten by many CHROs. One is when you are in a global company, I do believe you really need to become a good study of the world. So economics, politics, regulatory environments, all that is key when you have operations in many countries. So that is one that I particularly like. The second one is getting to understand the business at a very intimate level. I find quite often that CHROs, they get very superficial. They stay on the surface of the P&L without understanding the ins and outs of the business. And I don't think you can do your job if you don't have that knowledge.
Yeah.
So those 2 are 2 things that I really enjoy. And then I really enjoy the age in HR, right? So it is fine to be global. Is totally expected to be business centric, but in our line of work, you really need to be good with people, right? And so the empathy to understand what's going on at the organizational level, but then behind every individual there is a story, right? And getting to know those little stories to be more precise, more intentional in your work, I think is very key.
Yeah. And that takes a lot of effort as well. It's the macro environment strategy, this, that, the other. But people, that's where the effort is. Because things change, everybody's different.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's where the fun is as well. That's why I think I've gravitated towards this kind of work. You never know who the next organisation is, the next person is, the next issue is. Always interesting to work on. Challenge. So we're here. We could have done something very easy. We could have walked for half a day, got to the top of something and done this interview. But instead we're doing 20.5 miles, the presidential traverse in New Hampshire. 2 full days, a night in a hut where we've got very little sleep because of snoring other people.
Yeah.
And in your career, you've taken on one challenge and then given the next and then given the next, and it's got you to where you've gotten to. So what's the challenge now at Netflix?
Well, the industry itself is in a moment where a lot of things are happening. So we have a bunch of traditional players, media companies, TV companies, all the traditional, well, not traditional, but all the tech giants, so Apple, Amazon, they're all trying to get a slice into the streaming business. which is still a relatively small business compared to how much regular TV or cable TV everyone still watches. So there's a lot going on there. And also Netflix is a very young company. We are becoming 25 years old this August, and
Wow.
we have grew very, very fast, but still the opportunity is massive to become much more of a global organization, and being able to be in all those countries, finding all those local stories that then we put in our service and then become global hits. No, so that's a bit the challenge. No, is how you keep on being the leader in the industry while scaling effectively and efficiently, and most importantly, not losing the essence of who you are and what has made you successful. But at the same time, maybe acknowledging that the company that you have today is probably going to be very different from the company you will have 5 years out or 10 years out. So there's a bit of honoring the past and keeping the essence, but at the same time evolving toward a better Netflix.
Yeah, and the business has kind of changed, reborn 2 or 3 times already
Yes.
in that period of time. You know,
Yeah.
It's not what it was, 10 years ago.
DVDs. Do you remember getting your DVDs
In the mail.
in the mail? That was exciting, and then we moved away from that into streaming. The first company doing that, and then we thought, hey, maybe we should do our own movies, and
Yeah.
became the largest studio in the world. So it's been a story of constant reinvention, which is a lot of fun. It's also hard work.
Yeah.
So let's see what the next 5 to 10 years will bring.
Will bring. So from a leadership standpoint, what is that? Leadership
Yeah.
development. So I'm constantly working with clients trying to unpick where they are, where they're trying to go, and what leadership mindset and behaviors do we need to be developing to be good now and to be great in the future. So your thoughts on leaders at Netflix? What's needed?
So, the culture of our company is often defined as freedom and responsibility. And this is a very, as we were discussing yesterday, is a very process-free, policy-free type of environment. So you need people who are extremely good at judgment, right, and making sound decisions with just a handful of points of reference.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the freedom piece that goes into it. So that's one element that we work hard on, because it doesn't come to everyone naturally, right? And it comes combined with this idea of leaning into risk. So we have this culture where innovation doesn't happen unless you try new things, and in trying new things you break some stuff by definition, but hopefully you don't break too much stuff, which maybe goes back into judgment. So this idea of understanding, we're taking enough risk but not too much, is also important. And probably the last one is this idea of inclusion, right? And for us, it's important because part of our business strategy is to tell a bunch of very different stories with very different voices. So
Very different places around the world.
Not have only one single voice define a story. So to create that very inclusive content in your service, you need to have a very inclusive organization, right? There's no other way of doing it. So the idea of inclusive behaviors is key, way beyond the usual representation talk, which I do believe is just staying on the surface.
Right. Yeah. It's fantastic when you hear an organization being able to communicate very clear business reasons why it's important, and then people can line up behind that and go, yeah, absolutely, this is what we're about. We talked yesterday about a few of the shows on Netflix, the broad spectrum of shows, and I think that's representative of what Netflix is trying to do. It's not, if you turn us on, you're only going to see this kind of content. It's very eclectic.
Exactly. Well, that's the whole idea, right? The world is very diverse, and joy or entertainment is a very personal choice.
Yeah.
Right. So other streamers they have a bit of a more narrow selection of content, but that's not who we are. That's why we say we entertain the world. That's our that, you need to be inclusive by default. Even if some people sometimes would argue that we have too much content, that it's difficult to pick and all that. But
I think your algorithms are getting better around
Yes.
feeding stuff. I get stuck on, I have a Netflix and another streaming service not to be mentioned on this video.
please.
And once you get stuck, the algorithm works, because once you watch a season or a show and it starts recognizing the types of things that you like, and it holds me, so I can stay in Netflix for 6 months and not go to the other one, and then something on the other one might catch me, and then I end up watching a bunch of stuff over there. But it's good to have competition.
Yes.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, there's a space for at least two. It's fine.
At least two, yeah. So yesterday, it was not lost on me as a Brit, hiking with a Spaniard, that we kind of got beaten by Washington. And it's July the 7th or something like that. It was late in the day. We were going to miss our window at the hut for food and all the rest of it. And we decided to cut a mile short and head on in, which was the right choice to make, given that we've been climbing in the rain and the clouds and the wind for an entire day. But some might see that as did we fail yesterday?
Yeah.
So, failure.
Yeah.
Mistakes.
Yeah.
Things that you've done wrong.
Yeah. I don't know if I can think of a big mistake. I think I've been lucky enough.
You've not been trying hard enough.
Probably. I haven't leaned into risk that much. But having said that, I make mistakes every day, right? I have this habit of, at the end of the week, I try to write down things that I did well and I didn't do well.
Yeah.
Which is a very healthy thing.
Yeah.
Right before the weekend, and almost that you can think of every day. Okay, this and that, and so failure is something that is naturally happens daily. The big change for me is that not so long ago I would try to over rationalize mistakes.
Right.
Like it's not a mistake. It was probably the right decision with the information I got, or it was a viable path, but it didn't work out for it.
So you're hard on yourself.
A little bit. And now I find myself more naturally say, I was not my finest moment. It was my mistake, and I find myself laughing with my team about it, which is fine. And I think is liberating for yourself. It's good for the team to see that you are confident enough to recognize that you've made a mistake, and it's probably a combination of being humble enough, right? None of us is perfect, and also not probably take yourself that seriously after all.
Yeah,
right?
And it also sounds like the Netflix culture is conducive to that, with the sort of risk yet autonomy, kind of balance, sort of allows for that to happen as well.
Exactly, and that's why feedback is so important in our culture, and in any other organization. You have these big feedback moments, the big 360 or the end of the year assessment, and someone's like you freak out, and it's this big event, and you walk into the office of your manager, and you don't know where it's gonna be. And I always thought that was not a very productive type of approach, versus making feedback a daily thing, a daily habit. It's like brushing your teeth, no? And because of how you describe this idea of not a lot of policies and processes and rules, and is very much part of our culture to tell people where we thought they could have done better, right? But with this is with all the best of the intents, no? You made a mistake. What can you learn from it? Okay, this, that. Okay, we move on, right? And it's nice because I think it helps with forgetting the mistake. That part is almost you become like a goldfish. You immediately forget that piece, but you remember the learning.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that's a much more healthy culture and habit.
Yeah, and we're the business I'm in is a learning business, and you know, you hear a lot of organizations talk about failure, risk, fear of failure.
Yeah.
And it's nice to come across organizations where, you know, that word's not even thrown around. You know, it's all about learning, iterating, iterating, keep moving forward, but taking that time to just, like you said, at the end of the week, let me just do a quick week debrief in my head.
Exactly.
What went well, what
And what
didn't,
didn't.
you know, what am I going to start to think about doing differently next week?
Yeah.
Real simple personal kind of practice
Exactly.
around improving and increasing performance. So
Yeah.
all right, so on that note, we are going to head that away. We've got Pierce and Jackson. They're the last two.
Fantastic.
And given that we just filmed for 15 minutes and didn't catch any of it, and we've now had to film another 15 minutes, we're going to have to walk twice as fast.
Okay. Sounds like a deal.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
All right. Okay. We're on Mount Pierce, 7 of the presidentials.
The 8th, yeah.
With Washington and Eisenhower in the background, and the day continues to be absolutely amazing. I want to get stuck into learning a little bit. So when you think about developing leaders,
Yeah.
what's important?
Experiences is everything.
And that's from your series of experiences that you've had as you've grown throughout your career to how you see other people.
Yeah, I think we've seen everything from the competency models back in the 70s and the 80s to more sophisticated approaches. At the end of the day, how you learn is going through the different experiences that add up for you being ready for, you know, where you're gonna get to, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you know, I'm a big fan of experiential learning. In fact, I'm not, and not many people know this, I do not have a college degree. So when I left school, I had a decision to make of join the army, go to work, or go to university. And I chose to go to work. And so basically from the age of 18, worked my entire life. And I would say the same thing. I would chalk it up to where I've gotten to today has been that series of experiences that I've had. And that's why I love experiential learning so much, because you can, in a short period of time, create those kind of experiences that you want leaders to have.
Yeah, but still today, sometimes companies are very traditional in how they would look at this. So first of all, when they recruit, they will look at very traditional paths. No? The formal education as a proxy for you know, how good someone is, and certainly, you know, having a good education, you know, matters.
Sure.
But people learn very, very differently, and then there are people who stop learning and people who keep on learning.
Yeah.
And as you say, I mean, when you get to our age, basically we learn by doing, right?
So, I love the keep learning, stop learning. What's the thing you've learned the most about yourself in the last 2 months?
In the last 2 months, I would say the ability to operate in a very different environment. So when I changed to Netflix 10 months ago, I was pissing my pants.
Really?
Like I was like, am I gonna wait to pull this off?
Okay.
You know, it's like after 20 years moving to something totally new.
Yeah.
You know, I think there is a healthy degree of self-doubt that goes with it. No, and
focus.
So you put your head down, you work hard, and it takes you a while until you get to this feeling of, okay, more or less I get it, and it's a great feeling.
Yeah.
When you prove to yourself that you can, you know, move on, learn something new, and still, you know, be reasonably successful.
Successful.
Hopefully that's how Netflix feels about it.
I'll ask Reed next
Yes.
time I see him. Yeah, but there is something about that healthy degree of challenge that focuses the mind. You know, even as we were walking yesterday, I kind of said it's like a meditation. The amount of concentration that goes into every step, because you don't want to slip over in that miserable weather that we were in.
Yeah.
You know, focuses the mind, and I think bigger challenges, different environments, focuses the mind.
Exactly, and sometimes it's some of these emotions that are tagged very negatively, like stress or fear.
Yeah.
You know, a healthy dose of those, they really help you stay on target, concentrated, giving your best. So are very useful if you are able to channel them appropriately. So
a decent amount of challenge usually comes with a reasonable amount of support. So in your career, where and who has provided the support for you to be successful?
Yeah, so I listen, my wife for the most part, because the way we've looked at the last at least 14 years of my career is be more, how we think of the family. So what type of family we want to raise, what experiences we want to have, and then it's almost like my career enables that,
right,
rather than the other way around. And she's a very, she's a thought partner. Every time we need to make a decision, it's not my decision, it's a family decision. Now we are even involving the kids sometimes, which is funny.
As they get older.
But my wife clearly, she needs to get the credit. And then professionally, I've been lucky enough. A bunch of people I've learned from, and early enough they thought I was half decent to be given a number of opportunities. I'm not sure I could pick one, because there are a few of them, but yeah, a bunch of people who help you along the way, to give you the confidence, the support, they get your back if you make mistakes. So.
The sort of informal mentoring as you progress throughout your career.
Exactly, and I think what I picked that I think is super helpful is this idea of again, not taking yourself very, very seriously, and at the end of the day, our problems, relatively speaking, are not problems.
Right.
Compared to what other folks are going through in life and in other parts of the world. So we are lucky now, we're privileged people, so that helps.
And I think it reminded me of a sort of confidence and challenge. One of the things that I think has helped me from a resilience standpoint, I'd be interested in your thoughts on resilience, has been able to look back over my life and say, I've experienced more difficult and harder things than this.
For sure.
Therefore, this isn't as bad as, that was. Or that, I mean, I remember on Everest, lying in a tent, we'd probably spent about 30-something nights above 20,000 feet.
Yeah.
Nearing the end of the expedition, waiting for the weather window to come, feeling pretty miserable. And lying there going, I've actually had worse nights in a tent hiking in the UK.
Sure.
So, now it might be that wasn't quite as long and sustained as Everest.
Sure.
But I've always been able to patch back my experiences, and that from a resilience standpoint is absolutely key mindset. people who just try and muscle through it will eventually break. But if you can look at some of those bigger challenges that you've had in your life and work back from those, that works for me as a tactic.
Agree. I think it's bigger challenges, and I think also where you come from matters. Now, so I come from a very small place, Bilbao, in the north of Spain. Mid-class type of family. None of them thought of working abroad, and they are still actually my brothers and my mom. They all live within a 1 kilometer radius, more or less, right? And my friends are all there.
Yeah, I have very similar in the UK.
And I someone once told me something like, when you come from a small place, everything seems very big.
Right.
And again, I think that keeps you on your toes, right? Like, because you always have this, I wouldn't say this, like, I do not belong here, but but I haven't been born here for sure.
Right.
Right, and I think that gives you sometimes this mentality of going the extra mile, to make it and to prove to yourself that, again, that you can be hugely successful in a vastly different environment from the one you know, right?
Yeah. So have you always been sort of intrinsically motivated?
I think so. I'm an extrovert. So like I wake up, I need my couple of cups of coffee, but as soon as I start engaging with people, I feel better and better and better. And and I've been lucky enough to work in super fun companies with great people, like it's people that you respect professionally, but people you really, really like personally. So with those things, you don't need a lot of external motivation, right?
Yeah. It's around you. It's funny, when I changed organizations about 15 months ago, and it wasn't out of my choice, and the decision to set up my own firm was a very quick decision to make. But once I'd done it, I was on a definite roller coaster of excitement, like, I'm going to do my own thing and build my own business, and I've kind of done that before for somebody else, but now I'm doing it for myself. And then the anxiety of, is it going to be successful? Am I going to make it? And then what I found was that, and it was deep anxiety at times. Like I wouldn't eat because the anxiety was so strong. Every time, what brought me out of it was conversations with clients, even if they weren't buying anything, just having the conversation about what I was doing and what was going on and all the rest of it, and conversations with the people on the team.
Sure.
And it's that antidote to anxiety. It was absolutely gobsmacking to me.
Yeah, it's focusing on something, and I always also like, I don't know if you follow tennis, so I'm obviously a Rafa Nadal follower. And
well, fingers crossed for this weekend.
Let's see how it goes. Rafa is known for being a very mentally a very tough competitor.
Right.
And he always says that when he's really in a deep hole, the only thing that he thinks about is the next ball.
Yeah.
That's all.
Right.
And he doesn't think about the game, the tournament. It's just
the next.
And that helps with the anxiety, helps with the focus. So
yeah.
So when you're going through those valleys of fear and stress, get into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and then the confidence builds up again. So
that's definitely been my experience. And I'm also a bit of a fan of a good plan. As I talk about high levels of resilience, having a sense of where you're going and what you're doing and what that mission is, with a fair amount of pressure. I don't know whether you feel the pressure of the job.
Sometimes. I probably have more fun than I feel the pressure, but certainly there are moments where you feel the load on your shoulders. Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. Right, I'm going to cut to see if I've got any couple more questions. This bit gets edited out. Okay. What keeps you on the journey? What keeps you motivated? How many more years have you got left to work, Sergio?
I don't know. Hopefully not many.
5?
I don't want
10?
Definitely no more than 10.
Okay.
Something in between 5 and 10.
Yeah. So what keeps you motivated?
Well, I think there's so many things to do. Like I don't think in our line of work you get to a place and that's it. Like I'm done.
Right.
Organizations are live organisms. There's a new challenge to go after. So So I don't think there's a particular thing that keeps me going other than I enjoy what I do. I really do, and I learn every day. But also at the same time, it's a very demanding job, obviously, and I want to do other things in life. I think I see sometimes, especially in the US, people retiring at a late age.
Yeah.
And they go through this phase of they really don't know what to do with their lives.
Yeah.
They're stuck, paralyzed.
Yeah,
and
they can't not work.
I always thought that was a sad thing to see, right? I mean, especially people who have worked so hard for so many years. So I always said I'm not gonna be in that place. Life is short. I'm gonna quit corporate America early enough to then, do whatever it is. Maybe a bit of consulting, maybe a bit of teaching,
Maybe a bit
maybe
of climbing in the
hiking,
mountains.
maybe,
or maybe not after the last 2
or
days.
maybe just enjoy seeing my kids, grow up and spend time with my wife and my family.
Yeah, I'm very much the same. My brother retired at a young age. I think he had a big corporate job, and I think by the time he was about 45, he worked because he wanted to, not because he had to.
Yeah.
Which I think is, like you said, maybe a bit of consulting, maybe
Yeah.
a bit, just something to keep you sharp enough.
Exactly.
And I've always been very jealous of that, and I'd always aimed for 50.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that is not happening. I turned 50 in January, so I'm
turning now 50?
I'll be turning 50.
Okay.
Yeah, this January 2023.
I'm already there.
You're already there?
Hey, I'm already there.
Man, you look young for it.
I'm already there. I joined that club in December.
Oh,
so.
Congrats. But yeah, I now have my eye on a 10-year horizon. But if I can get there any faster, then I will.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm not in this for the work 100% for the rest of my life. Can't give it up, can't do anything else. Yeah. That's not what it's about.
Yeah, agree.
Fantastic. All right, there we go. Oh no, one more.
All right, put it back.
Put it back.
One more.
I got one more.
Easy one.
This is a simple
Low
one.
ball.
This is the closer.
Low ball.
This is the closer. 2 more. Why should anyone be led by you? I said I was going to ask you the question.
That's
at
a question.
The start.
But that's a question for them.
I like that answer.
I think that's a question for them.
Yep.
But I guess I should say
what
something.
would they say?
I think that
And I'm going to check. I'm going to ask.
I am half decent at 4 things. Giving a sense of direction.
Yep.
Providing a sense of contribution, generating a sense of belonging, and having some fun in doing all that.
Fantastic. I'm going to ask them.
Please, do
See
so.
what they say.
Yeah.
And I promise this is the very last question.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Route to the Top, my video podcast where I combine my love of being in the mountains with my love of leadership and trying to bring that together in this video podcast. So how's it been for you?
It's been fun. I mean, clearly today much better.
Much more fun.
But listen, careers and life is a bit like these 2 days. So you get a bit of rain, a bit of wind, you get wet, but then there are days like this, gorgeous, where everything makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. So it was even yesterday. I must say it was a really nice experience. I love the mountains too, and when you do mountains with good company, and then eventually you can have a glass of wine and continue good conversation, it doesn't get any better.
Yeah.
So it's been a great experience.
Brilliant. Me too. It has been tremendous, and yesterday put us through it, and then today is the
day.
It's the reward.
Yes.
For what was yesterday.
Yeah, we deserve it.
Yeah. Excellent. Right, we have another 2 hours to go before we get back to the Highland Centre and
fantastic.
shower and head home.
All right.
Let's go.